DC Studio CEO, this is not James Gunn. There's two of them. Remember, there's James Gunn and Peter Safran. This one's Peter Safran. Appears to lend credence to rumors that Momoa will exit the role of Aquaman after Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And so this is basically from a Men's Health article. So if you recall, there was a number of rumors earlier this year basically saying that Momoa, that the test screenings were really bad for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And then we eventually got one that said Momoa would be basically leaving the role of Aquaman because this movie was going to do really bad because the test screenings were really bad. So kind of recap this. We had the first scooper. His name is Viewer Anon over on Twitter. They deleted their initial tweet, but this is what they wrote. I'll be honest, we're half a dozen test screening in, and it's not looking great. I've consistently heard over the last half year, I think that's a spelling error on his part, or so, that it's boring, not as good as the first, and potentially one of the worst DC EU movies. And then this other, well, it's not surprising. The first Aquaman wasn't that good anyways. I don't know how it did the box office numbers that it did. If you recall, there were rumors.
Really?
There were rumors that DC actually bought a bunch of the theaters to boost their own box office to make it look like it was a big hit.
Oh.
So, yeah. So there's another guy here. We never confirmed that, though. Never confirmed that. There's another rumor here that says there's a reason. This is from Big Screen Leaks that wrote, there's a reason I've been avoiding any questions about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, but since Viewer Anon put it out there, it brings me no joy to back him up and tell you that test screenings for this film have not been good. Really hoping Juan fixes his movie before December. So what was really interesting about this is both these guys had basically said test screenings were like doing okay last year, and now they've all suddenly changed their tune, and they kind of explained why, but that's in a different article. The original article, I kind of covered all of that. But you have this guy here saying, I heard that something that almost never happened in test screenings happened with this movie. They're really going to need to fix this one and fix it fast. I'm guessing people walked out. I'm trying to think of like what happens in test screenings that almost never happens. I would assume test screeners usually stay and watch the movie. I don't know. For the most part, I don't feel like people, I mean, you always hear people like, oh, I walked out of that movie, but I don't know. I've been to, not recently, but I've been to a lot of movies, and I hardly ever see anyone like get up and like leave. Usually they get up, go to the bathroom, and then come back. So, but maybe people walked out because it was so bad. And then after Big Screen Leaks, we had Jeff Snyder of The Ankler, and he also, I think he has a site called Above the Line. He appears on John Roca's The Hot Mic YouTube channel, John Roca's YouTube channel, and they do a show every week, I guess, I think. But he said here, he was responding to Big Screen Leaks. He says, I hear it's terrible, and that's why Momoa is going to be Lobo going forward, but they can't say that yet because then it would be a lame duck. And DC is hoping to wring another $1 billion out of the box office. First one was awful too, so not a huge surprise. Yeah, the first movie was pretty bad. I agree with Snyder there. I also hate the casting, which we'll get to a little bit later. I mean, you guys have probably heard me preach on this for a while that I don't like Momoa as Aquaman.
Aqua Bro?
Yeah, Aqua Bro. But so this gets to kind of what Safran had to say here. He's kind of lends credence to these rumors. At least that was my read on this. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. He says, I look forward to working with Jason for many years to come. So like right there, it's like, okay, I might not be working with him anymore. Like, what isn't that what you say when like you're like, I hope they'll work with him, but I'm not sure if it's gonna happen. And then he says, I would be happy for it to be in Arthur Curry's world, but when another opportunity came up, I'd find another great character for him to create. It's like, dude, you are the CEO like of DC. You're the one who makes these decisions, so you should already know a lot of this. Well, so it just seems to me, seems like he's out as Aquaman.
That whole statement says that, but it says it a little differently. It says, Jason Momoa is staying with us, and a new opportunity has presented itself. So we're going to let him take that, and this is going down the drain. We're going to do 6 Aquaman.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with your read on that. That's how I kind of took it parsing through the Hollywood fake speak here.
Yep.
The double. So yeah, so I definitely think he's lending credence to this rumor that this movie is going to be really bad, and they're moving on from Momoa as Aquaman. But yeah, I agree with what about Mamoa being Lobo is so obvious. He didn't confirm it. It was very heavily implied that it's Lobo because that's his favorite character, and he is Lobo. He doesn't need to change who he is or how he's presented himself. He can play this. He can play Aquaman as Lobo because his Aquaman is Lobo, just wearing Aquaman's clothes. He's not playing Aquaman. He's Surfer Aquabro.
It just goes to show. It just goes to show that Hollywood is not casting people for the role; they're casting them for them. It's kind of like how Vin Diesel is always Vin Diesel in all of his movies. He's not the character he's been cast for. He's Vin Diesel doing that character's work. And so here we have it again with Jason Momoa.
Yeah, that's why he works as Riddick, because it's very similar to the character from Fast and the Furious, Dom.
And every other character he's played. He even did that to Bloodshot. Bloodshot is just Vin Diesel just having regenerative powers.
That movie was trash.
And Triple X was just Vin Diesel with a government budget.
Yeah, I hated Bloodshot so much because I actually had gotten really into like the new Valiant stuff, and they had some really, really good Bloodshot runs with Jeff Lemire over there writing some of that stuff, and it was the best of comics at that time, in my opinion, and at least from any kind of mainstream publisher. And they didn't even do Bloodshot because they didn't even paint him white. Nope. They didn't even show like the character is white skinned, like pure like white, like paint white.
Yes.
And
with a big red spot.
With a giant red spot, and they did a homage to it when he walks through like this dust cloud, and that was it. And then at the end of the movie, he doesn't even stay like that, and it's like, what are you even doing?
Right.
Like, if you're going to do a character, you need to do the character, be true to the character. But they couldn't even do that. It was awful. They were just trying to use that for his name, his star power.
Yep.
And
because they weren't confident in the title, even though Bloodshot, like, here's the thing that sucks the hardest about this. Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger actor who passed away last year, he was in a Bat in the Sun video series as Bloodshot. Yes. And he looked dead on to the comics.
Yeah,
like
the 1-to-1.
Beautiful casting with that. And it was some of his best acting. Like, again, Power Ranger actors, so but some of his best acting there. And then when that movie got announced, he made a post like, "What the heck, man? I went and did this. I'm right here. We got all the test footage you need." Nope.
Yeah, that was a China deal because basically the investors in Valiant basically bought up the stakes, and then they were trying to like launch their own movie universe, and it just completely cratered.